Good evening, Healing Journey. We welcome you to another day, another event, another time for us to come into your lives and your homes and share with you. We thank you for this opportunity to really be able to just come and talk to you about a few things that we can give you support on your learning journey. And that's what we do. I want to thank Tanja for being with us today. Tanja is the author of My Two Cents for Change. Look her up on YouTube. She also is the executive director and CEO of Reverse 180. So we just thank her. She's also one of our advisors in our lessons learned. So you're probably wondering where Lee is tonight. Well, in Lee's County, there in South Carolina, everything went out. So she has not been able to have lights and the necessities sometimes that we take for granted. So she was caught in that. So tonight we also pray for those of you who may not have electricity, who are caught without the food and the things that our basic needs. God said he would give us our basic needs, Maslow's hierarchy of basic needs. And we don't realize how important they are until we don't have them. So tonight we lift up everybody in prayer and cover you in the hand of protection. And make sure in this season that you don't get distracted. This is a very important season. And the Bible says that we have to stay alert and fast and pray in this season. So make sure we don't let the distractions get us. We are a 501c3 and we have an event coming up, and it is our golf tournament. It's our first golf tournament, and we're asking you to come on out, meet us, greet us, tee off with us. We're going to have a lot of events there scheduled for you. We're going to have our long shot guy who's going to come out, and also he's going to be able to make you some Bloody Marys. And we're also going to have an auction there with trips and things of that nature. So we invite you to come out to our charity auction, auction as well. As I said, we operate off of donations, okay? So this is the end of the year when a lot of people are saying, okay, I need a tax write-off. What do I do with this? What do I do that? How about going to our lessons learned? We have a QR code, and drop something in our box so we can keep going and doing things in the community that is so well needed. Tonight, we want to focus on relationships. Relationships are so important. Tanja and I built a relationship. They are important. So I had no problem in saying, hey, girl, can you come on with me tonight? And help me with relationships. Tanja, in her Two Cents for Change, talks about the importance of relationships, talks about relationships and many facets of relationships. So tonight we're talking about how important relationships are to your journey. All along the way, you are going to need stable relationships. And we're not talking about unhealthy relationships. We're talking about stable relationships. And that is so important for this journey. Positive human connection. That is a support. Tanja, would you like to say anything about positive human connections and positive relationships, the healthy ones?
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Um, I really don't have much to say about that without going too far, because when you talk about relationships, you set the tone.
Mhm.
And so if that person is not relatable to where you're going, because that's the base relationships, you got to be relatable. And so that person is should be able, when you say positive, should be able to direct you to the, to your destiny. That's a part of the journey to get you there. And so when you're talking about people, when you feel like that person is not, you know positive, then that's when you back,
Mhm.
so it's so many different facets of that that word that makes everything possible to
Mhm.
be positive. But then if you see that they can't follow along or they can't relate to you, then you just back away.
Yeah. And that's important that you do that, because if you really look at it, we have a basic need for social connections.
Hmm.
And they evolve in the interest of survival and reproduction. So think about all the things that relationships are good for, the healthy relationships. Now, we all have some unhealthy relationships that we need to distance ourselves from,
Hmm.
because look how much energy you're putting into a dysfunctional relationship.
Hmm.
And the best time to really judge that relationship to see if it's for you is when you get into an area of trouble. And my God, just like we're in now, you need that support for what you're going through. You want to be able to call on that person day or night. Hey, just listen, I need you. And positive social connections are what you need in that time.
Hmm.
Close relationships can also promote better mental health for you. So think about that. Can you think of a time, um, Tanja, where you needed a close relationship, or you just needed to really weigh that relationship and call on that person for support?
Oh, well, I got, when I was going through a divorce
Hmm.
and I needed some encouragement.
Hmm.
I didn't try to blame the other person, but I just needed some encouragement going through that difficult time.
Yes.
And I had a person that I could call that always encouraged me, always took everything that they saw good about me, the positive, to
Yeah.
encourage me, to let me know that was just a process. That's a part of the process, but God is taking you somewhere else. And so even though it was a divorce, it was also growth.
Hmm.
So when you look at that, that was a positive in there for me. It allowed me to grow, see some things for myself, and to be encouraged through that process that it gets better. And it did.
And that is so good, because positive interactions can lower anxiety and depression. It can also increase your self-esteem, greater empathy, more trusting and cooperation.
Mhm.
During the times that you may be going through what you're going through, you need that. And sometimes you just need them to listen. Shut
Yeah.
up, don't say anything. I just need you to listen to what I'm going through. I am going through, and I just need you to listen. And these are the times that, a lot of times you can't empathize because you haven't been through it.
Right.
So you want to be there for that person, and just listen to the emotion, not the message, but the emotion. That person could be crying out for you. And if you're talking too much and trying to analyze, you're going to miss the message. So you're going to miss that emotion. So make sure that you are focusing on that emotion in the message, because I remember when I was going through, I cried. I listened to music. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't do anything. I just needed to be listened to. I needed that. And that was so important. So, that relationship, when Lee came to me, and when I came to Lee and she reached out, she could understand because she had been there and was still there. And that was so important to me. I said, wow, you know, don't tell a person you understand if you haven't been there, because you don't know.
Right.
You don't know those emotions that they're suffering with. So that was very, very important for me. It kind of helped me with my anxiety, just knowing that I could reach out to her. I had that positive connection, that social connection, and I needed that. More so, social connection, it was a support system for me. She was like my therapist at the time. Yeah, she was my therapist at the time. And that's very important that you have that, because when you're going through and you don't have the positive relationships in your life, then you start relationships with other things, such as substances, such as sexual, too much of that and this and that. So we got to be very careful. And the most important relationship, if is the first one that you have with God. Father, I stretch my hands to thee, no other help do I know. That is an important relationship that can definitely get you through these times. And say you're not a Christian, you're not a believer. Well, you know what? Some of these things that you go through, whew, they'll make you a believer, because you know what? When God reaches out his hand and comforts you and covers you, you form that bond with him. And it's the best bond that you'll ever have. And I just say that that's from personal experience. And that is very, very strong. And also, strong bonds with your family is very important. You know, my brother was definitely there, that strong bond. My sons were there. My mother and father were there. So those were strong bonds. With you, Tanja, you have that strong family bonding. And, you know, when you go through different things, who do you reach out to the most?
My sister.
Your sister. Wonderful. Wonderful. That is a great
My sister.
human connection. And your dad. Yeah. Yeah. That is so great. You also have that spiritual connection, that connection with God. And that foundation was birthed. And, you know, would you say that's one of the most important connections that you have?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Yes. It's like none other.
Yes.
It's like none other.
You know, he came in the human flesh, so he can relate to all of us. So relationships is about relating, and as you stated earlier with Lee, she had been where you were, and so when you reached out, that was a relatable relationship because of similarities, you know. And so that's why I said when you're going, like you said, if they haven't gone through it, it's kind of hard for them to encourage you. They can be there for you and be a sounding board, like you said, to listen. However, when they've gone through it, it makes it even better for them to encourage you as you go through.
It is. It's so important. And as you talk about that, you know, we want to look at the emotional support.
Mhm.
Just having that person there is emotional support. You know, relationships offer you more than just a person being there, it's comfort and understanding during difficult times. And that's what you want, that comfort. You know, a lot of us will go into different things for comfort instead of that human connection.
Mhm.
Also, a sense of belonging. You know, if you have two or three of your girlfriends, you know, there's some shows on TV that you know we like to watch, and I like how the girlfriends get together for
Mhm.
that emotional bonding and that support. And that is so important when one gets in trouble or one has conflict, you
Mhm.
know, to see how they come together financially, emotionally, whatever way they can, and take care of one another. That is very important. And
Right.
also personal growth. Relationships are so important for your personal growth. You know, interactions with others can encourage self reflection and personal development. You know, sometimes a friend will tell you things, and you look in the mirror like, wow, I heard what she said. Is that me? And you start to really reflect and turn the eyes inward and say, you know, these are things I need to change. These are things I need to change. And that's one thing that's good about, you know, having that good relationship, and especially in times of conflict. In times of conflict, we really need that. But also, in times of conflict, that is a great time to change some things as you go forward, because during conflict, you are growing. These are trials, and you are growing during these personal conflicts. Also, with the relationships, there could be improved mental health. Strong relationships can reduce feelings of loneliness and depression. And when you're going through, woe is me, we're in a self pity party, we're in a lot of things. So, those relationships can help you climb out of that deep, dark hole. I've been there. I've been there where I couldn't get out of the bed, and God was the lifter of my head. And that was so important. I needed that relationship to help me. And there's times now where, you know what, I got to go in that secret place and say, God, just help me through these times. So it's very important to have the healthy relationships, and the psychology of relationships helps you with your psychology. Also, relationships are shared experiences. Okay. So with Lee and I, we shared that experience. Whether it was positive or negative, we shared that experience, and look what we're doing now. God had us turn that into a positive, and that was good. Now, Tanja was on the other side of the spectrum where she could tell us different things from the inside perspective as she was in law enforcement. So she was able to be there and aid us in that respect. And that was very important to us. And that helped out so much to hear her perspective. But she was lifting us up at the same time. And, our people fail for a lack of what? Knowledge. So she was able to be knowledgeable. This is what's going on. That's what's going on. So as we are in our lessons learned, we count on her knowledge to lead us and guide us into certain things that we're doing. And that's very important to us. Also, the support system, it's practical help. Just, girl, do you need some groceries? Honey, do you need this? Can I take you here? Can I take you there? Going to court and things like that. You don't want to roll alone. You want somebody to go with you because you know what? You don't know what to expect. So those relationships will help you. They will help you put things in perspective. Girl, I got you. Or guy, I got you. A lot of us have good male friends. I have very good male friends. And you know what? They're there for me. And I appreciate that. I love that sense of belonging sometimes. And that can also help with depression. Tanja, in your walk and the things that you do and certain times of trials and tribulations, I'm sure that you count on some of your girlfriends as well, right? Instead of your sister, sometimes you want to go outside of that foundation.
Well, exactly. Because sometimes the camaraderie of friends, like you said, kind of takes your mind off of things because you don't necessarily have to discuss the issue,
Mhm.
but you could just laugh. Just let your hair down, laugh, like you said, for your mental health, it does something. It just, and just to laugh and talk about, like you said, you watch television, we watch the same similar
Mhm.
television shows and we discuss it. So it kind of takes you away from those things and it gets, kind of let your hair down and just relax. So that's good to have that sisterhood where
Yeah.
you do that.
Yes. And that is so important. As we talk about restorative justice and restorative practices, I don't know how many times the families come together and they communicate and create a bond. And that is also for the community as well. Think how restorative justice changes the lives of those involved. So that's also a relationship that is built. We had the President Michael on, and he was talking about how, his son got into trouble and how the families now are close because of that. So God has a way sometime of putting people together that you never know why. But God, he always has divine intervention. And I love the way that he does that because sometimes he does it for such a time as this. Why is this person in my life? Why is this happening? Why? For such a time as this, because he says all things work together for good. So he's doing it because the other pieces have not been put together yet. So he's making it so in the other pieces, everything's going to fit. That puzzle, that jigsaw puzzle, it's got all 500 pieces all perfectly laid and connected together. That's how he operates. When we also look at enhanced communication skills with relationships, it also teaches you how to talk to one another and to create a strong communication bond, and teaches you maybe you need to change a little bit in your communication. So with your friends, it teaches you proper communication. Also, collaboration and teamwork. Okay. There's no big eyes, little U's. We're all in this together. We are a team. And if you go to a support group, you'll see that it's more you're sitting around together in a group, forming relationships. My uh My skills, my coping skills might help you. Your coping skills might help me. But we're sitting here more so like a team. Let's all work together on this for a common goal. And that is very, very important. And I encourage you to maybe go and get some mental health counseling, or there are support groups out there for you for other loved ones whose loved ones are facing challenges with the uh, justice system. And it is very important to bond together with them and maybe help them along the way. You could be far further in your walk than they are. When I met Lee, she was further in her walk than I was. So she reached back and she was able to pull me to where she was. And that was so important for me. So important. And Tanja, your days in corrections, I'm sure that you saw a lot of um, relationship issues and just things with people suffering and, not knowing what to do next, where to go from the inside perspective,
Mm-hmm.
because relationships are so important for the caregiver, the loved ones, with their loved one on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times there's guilt and there's all kind of things, but that relationship is so important. And you saw it from that perspective. Were there ever times, if you can talk about that, where, the individual was yearning for that relationship with their loved one or caregiver?
Oh, absolutely, because it was very important. When you had mail call, they were looking for the letters.
Mhm.
Sure, they've advanced now and have the email and all that, but they were looking for visits. That was important to them because that made them high in the food chain, so to speak, when
Mhm.
they received the visitations, when they received the letters. It just lit up. It changed the way they were acting. A lot of them, if they acting out, if they got a letter or they got a visit, totally calm them down. And like you said, it changed their mental health for that moment. And so it's important for a family. If you're out there and you have loved ones, please visit, write, put money on their books, because when the commissary time comes around, they're excited. It changes them. So that relationship is very, very important.
It is. It is. And you know what? To build that relationship also, when the commissary comes around, you know how expensive that commissary is. Boy, I ain't got no money for that commissary this week. Okay. So those are the things where you can build that relationship and that child or that loved one understands, because it is so important. It is so expensive. Also, this could also be the time to build a better relationship. Say there was conflict. Say some things in the relationship were unhealthy. Well, this is a time to increase the communication and to rectify anything that was going on in that relationship that needed to be changed.
Mhm.
So look at this as more of, when we're talking about the psychology of relationships and the importance of it, look at this as a time for building. Look at it for time for reconstructing. Look at a time for to assess needs and give support. These are all the things that are so important in relationships and the importance of relationships. And also, when we look at it, it's also stress relief.
Mhm.
You know, they may need to vent and you may need to vent. We had a father on here before whose daughter was incarcerated, and they built a strong relationship based on the fact that he would go visit her. She now lives with him, and the things that they went through together. That was important because they built the relationship while she was in there.
Right. I remember that interview.
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
really awesome.
Yeah. It's not a time to diss and I can't do it. You can do it. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Is it easy? No. Nothing in life is easy. We have to keep pushing. We got to push and iron out the wrinkles and things in these relationships. Don't give up. Giving up is not an option. We just got to push through. With our pain, we have to push through. When we push through, you never know what you're going to be birthing at the other side. Just
Right.
keep pushing to build that relationship, and you'll see. a change in yourself as well as in um, your loved one. Also, let's talk about a healthy nudge. You know, friends can really shape your lifestyle habits through encouragement. Sometimes you might just need that little nudge. Won't you do this? Won't you do that? I ain't doing that. We got to drop our pride sometimes. And when we do things and we really think about the seed that they planted, and you really think about it, wasn't that bad after all? Some of those things really work if you're open to suggestions. Don't be closed. Because as you build relationships, people pour into you. You know, a relationship is transactional. Give and take, give and take.
And you definitely gonna do that. You've been in and you gonna pick all kind of suggestions. Some I take and some I don't, but I do appreciate it because I'm not thinking about that at the moment. Something else might be in my mind. And so I look at you like, girl, but I do appreciate it and I do think about it. And we talk about it later if I do go forward or if I don't, we talk about it. And so that's important, like you said, and it helps you to grow.
It does. And it's always honesty. Use honesty. Don't sugarcoat nothing. Use the honesty when it comes to those relationships. That's how you build a trusting relationship. Using that honesty, letting that person know how you feel. And that is so important. And it also will boost your self worth. You'll feel good about yourself. And it's also a release. Have you ever felt like, wow, I got that off of my chest? I feel a release. Well, when you're honest and that self worth boosts, you feel that release. And that is good. You're accepting those confidants, which satisfies your psychological needs for validation and for empathy. And that is so important. So, these are just a few of the things that we wanted to share with you. And one other thing that I wanted to share with you, and that's the financial stability. You know, your friends are the ones that are going to help you through. We know how expensive it is. Everything getting there, eating with them on that day and things like that. Well, sometimes your friends will encourage you and maybe give you a nugget. Hey, this is for this is for your friend, this is for your loved one, and those things are very important because I know it's a struggle. It is a struggle. Everything is expensive. And I don't know. I know South Carolina has those secure packs, those access secure packs, and they're like $200 every single time. So, yeah, you would think you'd be getting a whole trailer full of groceries. Child, please. If you get two little bags of things, that's it. So, yeah. So
Oh,
you got to keep them, with food and things of that nature. So, things are hard, but build those good relationships because you know what? You never know when it's going to be your turn next. You never know because, you know, we don't know what's in the cards for tomorrow. God does. So treat everybody right.
amen.
Build those relationships so when you need them, you can call on them and they'll be there for you. Now, realize that sometimes God wants you all to himself sometimes. And he wants to build that relationship with you first. So he's got to get your attention. And then he will place others in your midst that will be that strength and that source of power for you. So that's very important as well. And a lot of marriages go through the test of time when you're going through this stress. There's also relationship problems and your moods or can be boosted, and we talking about the wrong moods. So it's maybe a time to get in and talk about, hey, this is affecting our relationship, so we need to look at our relationship a little bit differently and maybe get some help if it is affecting your relationships. And we're talking about our couples therapy and marriage therapy, and that can also help with the satisfaction and consistent companionship, intimacy, shared experience, and emotional fulfillment. Those are all the things that can be tested during the times of trial and tribulations. So God said, he said, I didn't promise you that there wouldn't be any. He said, but I did say that I would be with you always. I'll be with you through these. And he says, my grace is sufficient. So when you're going through, and maybe that girlfriend or that guy friend is not readily available to you, just pull that phone out in your bosom and call on him. Hey, Jesus, I need you right now. You talking about that grace? I need more of your grace.
Mhm.
And that is going to get you through these times. Tanja, would you like to say anything else about relationships and what you found out in healthy relationships and why they're important to you?
Well, healthy relationships actually start with you. You know,
Mhm.
so if I'm gonna, you know how they say you got to be the best version of yourself so you can attract those same people. Well, a lot of times you're wondering why people are doing the things that they do, but because it's a part of your healing process that you haven't totally completed. And
Mhm.
so, with that being the case, how do you expect to understand something if you're not looking at it from a healthy point of view? And so, like you said, communication is key, but you got to deal with your stuff first. And then when you get around people that are healthy, things go a little smoother. And if there's a little bump, you're able to communicate that and keep it moving. Nobody's upset. Just okay, now I know how to communicate with her or him, and they know how to communicate with me based on what I've told them. If they love you enough, if they want to change,
Mhm.
so it's important to be open
Mhm.
because like you said, a lot of times you can see things that I can't see about me, and then you communicate it with me, and then I go and I, think about that, and I play it in my mind, and then I go, oh yeah, she's right. Because a lot of times a lot of people will tell you the same thing, but if you're not ready to grow, you just like put
Exactly.
it at, oh, they just talking, they just whatever, you
Mhm.
excuse instead of taking responsibility for your actions, saying, I do that a lot. So let me work on this. Why is this? And so when you say those things, that's when you're really ready to grow. And then you'll present yourself differently the next time because you care about that person and you want to be the better version of yourself so that there's no conflict over and over again. People are not walking around on eggshells. And so communication is key, but you also starting with yourself. And then you gotta help you ultimately get to that point where it's a really healthy relationship.
It is. It is. So forgive me if sometimes I say things and I may not, that tone might be, we say keep it real. Sometimes that tone might be, but that is the beauty of it because you're growing in relationship with each other. And you never know. There have been certain times where we've needed each other, you
Mm.
know? And prayer, you call on Tanja, she gonna come with that oil in that prayer. Okay, she gonna lather you down with it, and you're covered. Okay, and that's one. That is one thing that is important. She came over here one time, and I was going through, and boy, whoo, I was on my knees. Okay, I was oiled down, prayed for, on my knees, and it was such a release. And that is so important when you are going through.
Yeah,
When you are going through, there's nothing more important than grabbing on that friend. You don't have to go through things alone unless you want to.
absolutely.
Unless you want to. And that's when it gets unhealthy sometimes because you isolate yourself. And when you do that and you don't process those emotions, that's when it can get the best of you.
Yes.
So make sure that you know who's in your camp, who's sitting around your campfire. Remember, the relationship is give and take, and that's very, very important that you have that transaction in that relationship, and especially at times like this, because yes, it is all about you. In
Mhm.
times like this, your friends will help to get you through and support you through this. And don't ever forget that you're not alone. You can call on. Well, I don't want to bother them. Call on them. That's what they're there for. And
Mhm.
that's testing that real relationship. Are they really there for me?
Mhm.
So I leave you with that tonight. It is relationships are good for your mental health. They're a must for your mental health to reduce the anxiety and depression. And we know that going through these times, you're going to be faced with anxiety. You're going to be faced sometimes with stressors. You're going to be faced with that depression. but you don't have to bear it alone. The
Mhm.
Bible says, cast all your cares on him because he cares for you and he loves you.
Yeah.
You're not meant to carry what you're carrying. It's just that you won't release it to him. So we challenge you tonight to call on your friends. Call on Lee and I. We're here for you. We know what you're going through. I'm still on that journey with you, and I'm still learning as I go. So again, we cover you. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. We're praying for your health and safety in this season, your anxiety to be lowered. We do have another storm out there. So you know what? We're going to ask God to calm the ocean right now. He said he would calm the raging sea. So we're going to ask him to calm it right now and restore what the locust has taken right now. So we're going to ask God for that blessing. So Conjure, any words?
No, just like you said, know who's in your camp.
Mhm.
Try the spirit by the spirit. You got to know who's around you because this flesh goes away
Yes.
when everything happens. So you have the spirit man that really ultimately resides and is a true you. So
Yes.
when you're around people, you can pick up whether those spirits are genuine. You can
Yes.
pick up, and so it's important to know who each individual that you're with are, and you need to know how to compartmentalize who that friend is to know what they bring to the table that relates to you, and that person could be encouragement or an encourager, that person can be a prayer warrior, another person can be able to bless you financially to help you through situations. You compartmentalize it, and that way everybody doesn't have to be everything to you, but you should have a circle of friends that you can call on based on what your needs are.
Exactly. That's excellent advice. Thank you so much. So remember, give and it shall be given unto you. Don't hold your hand so tight. Keep giving.
Mhm.
Keep giving and it shall be given back to you. Press down, shaken together, where your emotional cup will run over.
Amen.
And that's all we're going to say tonight. So we'll see you back here in 2 weeks. If you need us, inbox us, DM us, do whatever you need to do. Again, please sign up for our golf tournament. You come out and meet us and tee off with us that day. We thank you for allowing us to come into your hearts and your homes. God bless.